All right. You. So we've just been hanging out here talking about dogs, one of our favorite subjects. I love, Alyssa, how you had shared on Facebook that you never thought you'd be that person that was having birthday parties for dogs.
No,
And
I
being
definitely,
such
I went from dogs are not people, dogs are not children to I wonder how many dogs we could get at her fifth birthday party in like a day. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, I've gone full on like dog mom in the last couple of weeks.
Oh my God. And you can go crazy with everything, the clothes, the
Yeah.
collars, the treats, the specialized dog birthday cakes, like for
Oh
your
yeah.
party.
Oh yeah. We're
Ah,
very excited for her birthday party.
I love it. Oh my God. We've got Sabrina, NJ here, Eric. Good to see you three. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have Alyssa here. As many of you know, periodically, I like to bring people on who have had success in their work to learn more about how that happened. And also, we get a really special treat with Alyssa because with the work that she does, helping small businesses and nonprofits with their corporate legal issues, I think we're all going to get some great advice as well and find out about some things of ways of doing things the right way. So, Alyssa, I really appreciate you joining me for this.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and as people are coming on, come on in, say, I'm watching the comments, say hello, let us know you're here. If you have any questions, just go ahead and pop them in the comments. I'll keep an eye on those.
I'm watching them too.
Oh, good, good. Okay. So, Alyssa, for anyone who could possibly be out there who does not know you, would you just share a little bit about you and the work that you do?
Sure. So I'm an attorney in Williamsville. I've been in private practice for about 5 years, practicing for 13 altogether. So my first 8, I was in-house counsel at a nonprofit in Buffalo, and then transitioned into private practice just over 5 years ago. My anniversary was actually last week. My practice is probably about 50-50 corporate and nonprofit.
Mhm.
A lot of that looks the same on either side, dealing with employee issues, commercial real estate, leases, contracts, that kind of stuff is going to look the same really on either side. But on the flip side of that, setting up, entities is obviously going to look different on the corporate and nonprofit side. Helping with tax exempt status and compliance issues on the nonprofit side. So a little bit that's kind of overlapping and then a little bit that's different, but largely just building long-term relationships with organizations, whether they're corporate organizations or nonprofit organizations. Um, I'm not a big transactional person. I don't really like doing kind of a really intense transaction with somebody and I work with them for a couple of weeks and then I never speak to them again. That's definitely not the way that I like operating, which is why I like these two areas of practice. I have clients now that became my clients when I first joined the firm that I still deal with on a daily basis. And so I know when their birthday is and what their kids' sports are and get to know the backstory on the organization or the company and who the key players are and that kind of stuff. And I think that long-term relationship is really helpful because every time they call me with a question or an issue, they don't have to give me the whole life story of how the organization or the company got to where it is because I already know that. So I really like building those long-term relationships rather than just doing transactional work.
Oh, I love that. And I think for any business owner or nonprofit, through the course of the business life, there are always areas where we need help from legal
Yeah.
perspective, and it changes along the way. So it's really nice to have a partner like you throughout that process. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the places where businesses and nonprofits really tend to struggle is they don't build that relationship. And so, I mean, people don't like lawyers because usually if you're calling a lawyer, you have a problem, right? And so I would much rather build a relationship with somebody over something happy. Yay, we're starting a business. Yay, we're hiring employees for the first time. Yay, we're starting a nonprofit or we're expanding or we're buying a building. Those are all a lot better ways to build relationships with somebody than, oh, we got a human rights complaint from a former employee and now we're trying to build a relationship. So it's definitely easier to reach out and to start building that relationship, now when things are good. So that again, I have kind of the history and the backstory of the organization. And it's a little bit easier to kind of handle some of those things that aren't so good when people need me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you have helped me. You've helped several of my small business clients. Speaking of dogs, we recently had a conversation with the executive director and president of Buddies. As that organization has grown, that nonprofit, you were such a huge help to us. So I've experienced firsthand the power of your work. But I'm curious, when you're working with organizations, do there tend to be certain issues or certain challenges that come up over and over again that you see that maybe by chatting about it here, it might help some people not have those issues?
For sure. On the nonprofit side, it tends to be, we had a lawyer set us up 10 years ago, and then we haven't looked at anything since then. So we haven't looked at our bylaws. We don't even know where our certificate of incorporation is. We definitely have tax exemption and we file the thing every year, but like nobody ever really looks at it. And the organization is not what it was 10 years ago. So it's grown, it's expanded, it may have changed its focus. And it was like they kind of did this really quick sprint with a lawyer at the beginning and then never spoke to them again. And so I try on that side to just regularly reach out to my clients for no reason at all. Hey, just checking in, wanted to see how things are going. One of the things I learned a few years ago that I found really helpful is, I know you like dogs. And so if I see a really interesting, like dog related event, I might send you a link to it. Hey, I saw this. I thought you might like it. Making those contacts, people think about them from like, oh, a marketing standpoint. You need to have so many, warm touches to keep you top of mind. I'm not really thinking that. I want to stay top of mind for people so they remember to call me when they have a problem. So that's really on the nonprofit side. It's just sort of like, oh yeah, we had a lawyer at one point, and then no one's looked at our stuff in the last 10 years. On the corporate side, I think the biggest thing that I run into that really bothers me is just a lack of understanding of their corporate documents. So I tell clients all the time, my goal, if I'm going to set up an LLC for you, my goal is to hand you an entity at the end that's ready to go and do business, but you also understand what I'm handing you. So I've had new clients that I've onboarded where somebody else, set them up maybe a few years ago, but they're looking for a longer term relationship with an attorney. And I'll say, hey, can you just send me your articles of organization, your operating agreement, your EIN letter? And they'll either send me everything they have. They're like, I don't know, maybe it's something in here, you look through it and let me know. Or they're like, I have no idea what any of that stuff is. And it's frustrating to me. I don't expect people to understand, sort of the legal details. That's what they have a lawyer for, but it's their business and they should at least have an understanding of sort of in general what those documents are and what they mean. And if they don't, their lawyer didn't do a good job. And so that's really frustrating to me. It's really hard to provide good advice for somebody if they don't necessarily understand where they're starting out. So, if they're going to apply to be a women-owned business enterprise, they need to show that they're majority women-owned. If they're an LLC, we would do that by looking at their operating agreement. But if they don't understand what the operating agreement is, that's not helpful to them. So I'm a big analogy person. I talk all the time about setting up an entity being like setting up another bucket to put your stuff in. And so I explain that to clients all the time using sort of my bucket thing. The other thing I tell them is starting a business is almost like having a baby. And so, you form the entity and you have a certificate of incorporation or the articles of organization. That's your baby's birth certificate. So that's the evidence that it exists separate and apart from you. And then when we have a baby, we apply for the social security number for it. Similarly, we apply for an EIN for it. We do that after the baby is born. And that's your EIN letter. And then your operating agreement or your bylaws would be like if your baby came with a manual, which wouldn't that be great? And so that's what that is. And so I try to make analogies for people that they can relate back to other experiences they have, so that down the road, if somebody asks them for, this document or that document, they at least remember what that is and what the purpose is. And I think that's a big one. I think it's really hard, especially for younger business owners or newer business owners. It's really hard to advocate for yourself when you're dealing with professionals if you don't understand what the structure of your business is. So I work really hard on that. I definitely take more of an education focus. It's really important to me, not just that I do good work, but that you understand what it is that we're doing and why.
Oh, I bet your clients really do appreciate that. I mean, I think for some people, they don't want to think about it. They want to focus on their work and they
Yeah,
just want to get that done. But as you're describing here, it is so important to know what you're doing and know what the documents mean because they do have an effect down the road. I love that sharing about when somebody wants to be a woman-owned business. Well, there's some structure that's needed in advance.
yeah.
So, and if they've talked with you, they know that. Yeah. We've had some other people pop on. Kathy Walker, good to have you here. Linda, Laura, Loney, thanks you guys. Glad you're here. Eric, I don't like lawyers because they're the worst. Spoken from another favorite lawyer here, our real estate buddy. So good to have you all on. Isn't this great information that Alyssa's sharing with us here? One thing that came to mind when you were talking was I know so many new businesses like to try it the online route to start with. I hear this over and over again, Rocket Lawyer or
Legal
I'm drawing.
Zoom.
Yes, thank you. That was the
Everyone
one.
loves the legal Zoom.
Oh my God, how many times have you had to correct things or help people along where it ends up probably doubling the cost to them because
Yeah.
they just thought they could do it easy online.
I tell clients all the time, I will never agree to do something for you that you could do for yourself. So I've had people like ask me about a DBA before. You're not paying me to do a DBA because you don't need to. I'll send you the form, you fill it out. If you have a question or something, I'll answer it, and then you can take it to the clerk's office. You don't need me to do that. I would like to have a conversation about whether a DBA is a good fit, but if it is, you don't need a lawyer to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I like the long-term relationships. I have some clients that are like, I don't care. I don't want to deal with it. So whatever you think, just go ahead and do it and send me a bill, and that's fine. And then I have others that are like, listen, I would really rather do most of this myself. So I'm gonna bring on an independent contractor. Can I prepare an agreement myself and I'll send it to you, and I'd really just like you to review it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
So it's helpful to learn, kind of what people's tolerance is for spending in terms of, do they really just want to pass it off to somebody else and have them manage it? Or are they really a little bit more cost conscious? A couple challenges with LegalZoom. They can set up an entity for you. So for sure that's getting done, but the problem is that's all they're doing. And so if you're setting up an LLC, they're not doing your publication. And publication isn't terribly complicated, but it's a very detailed process. There's very specific things that have to be done. There's a filing that has to be done on the tail end of publication, and none of that is being done. They're not preparing an operating agreement, which again, at some point down the road, you're going to need that. So I typically tend to run into the LegalZoom people when they go to the bank for a line of credit, maybe, or they go and they're going to bring on a partner or something, or they're going to bring on employees and they realize that they've got 15% of the legal documents they need. The other thing that really, really aggravates me about LegalZoom is that they sign people up for registered agent service. If you form a New York State entity and you have a New York State address, you do not need a registered agent. They have some sort of kickback scheme going, and you're probably paying $100 or $200 a year for that, and you don't need it. And that's really frustrating because you pay it up front and then you've paid for it for the year. So even if we cancel it, it's not like you get the money back. And I've had clients that, they formed 5 years ago and they've paid 5 years of registered agent service completely unnecessarily. And that's way more than it would have cost to have me set them up. So that's really frustrating to me. That makes me angry. So one of the first things I do anytime I get a new corporate client and a new nonprofit client is I go through all of their formation documents and I tell them, listen, I'm not on the clock. I just want to take a look at kind of where we are to get a better understanding. And I usually will pick up on one or two things that we need to fix. The county is wrong. The address is wrong. Their biennial isn't done. They have that registered agent service and they're spending, $150 a year on it. Things like that. The other thing is LegalZoom is not answering questions for you. So, if you get 6 months into your business and you want to have an independent contractor start, LegalZoom isn't helping you talk through that. LegalZoom is a national company, which means their understanding of New York State law is none. And,
Right.
anybody who has a business in New York knows that hiring employees or engaging independent contractors can be kind of a minefield in New York. And so it's really important to have somebody that knows that and that understands that and that this is their area of practice to be able to advise you on that.
I love that. You brought up so many things just in a few minutes that I think are just such important things for small business owners to be thinking of. And Karina, good to have you here with us too. Thanks for hopping on. All right, so you mentioned, so I always like to talk about the way people have developed their businesses. Now, this isn't your own business, but in essence, you are always working to develop your practice within the organization, right? And you just said you've just celebrated your 5-year anniversary.
Yeah, so I came here out of an in-house position. So my first day of work, I had one client, and that was my old organization that kind of came with me when I left there. So that was really daunting, and that actually kept me from going into private practice for a long time. I kind of thought about it for a few years, but like just that whole how am I going to get clients? Where am I going to find them? Was really overwhelming to me. So I started 5 years ago with one client, joined BNI chapter, and I tell people all the time I have largely built my practice either in BNI or using skills from BNI. So I'm an introvert, like an extreme on the little like thing when you take the Myers-Briggs, I'm like all the way over on top of the I for introvert. And so the idea of like sitting down and having coffee with somebody that I met on LinkedIn, hard pass 5 years ago. Like there's no way I ever would have done that. And so just being able to like hone those networking skills and then have a group of people to kind of practice the small talk on.
Yep.
Small talk is definitely not my jam. I'd be like, oh, it's cold out today. And then it's like you get the blank stare and the awkward silence. So having that group of people to sort of practice those skills on was really, really helpful. The last couple of years, I've been, I'm Facebook friends with a lot of clients. That was something I was not doing before COVID started. It was always kind of like there's my personal life and then there's my practice. And so I wasn't really Facebook friends with people. But I've started adding clients as Facebook friends, and they'll tag me, in groups where people are looking for recommendations. It's also helped me because I can tag them. I could tag their business when people are looking for whatever it is that they do. And I have found the last couple of years that the more me I am, the more I'm attracting the kind of people I really want to work
Yeah.
with. So
Yeah.
it was like I started with like was wearing a suit and dressing like a lawyer and nice shoes. And I kind of backed off on that during COVID just because it got so much more casual anyway. But I
Yeah.
really haven't gone back to that. Like I'm wearing sneakers today. My hair is colored and I just got a new tattoo this weekend. So like I finally realized that just by, I've always hated the word like authentic, but by being who I really am, I'm
Yeah.
definitely attracting more of the kind of people I want to work with. So I'm attracting a lot of younger business owners. I'm 37, so I want people that are going to grow with me over the course of the next couple of decades. And that's been really cool just to bring in clients that look more like me. They're in more the same stage of kind of their life personally and professionally as I am. So that's been a big lesson for me though, just to kind of just to be me.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. And now, so people who need help and love dogs, they know who to go to. That tattoo is really cool. What did that? I saw it. It's right down your back, right?
It's Taekwondo because
Uh-huh.
everyone loves the Taekwondo. And then at the bottom it says perseverance. And I left a space in the middle. The date that I get my black belt is going to go in that space.
Oh my gosh. When do you
So,
anticipate that happening?
either December of this year or April of next year. They do black belt testing 3 times a year. So if I make December, I can test then. If not, it'll probably be April of next year.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
Oh, yeah. I just couldn't agree with you more. And I see some other people agreeing too. Laura, you cannot replace that personal touch. The need to call your attorney, get a response. NJ, being who you are. Yep. Karina, absolutely agree.
I
Definitely.
had somebody call me last week. She was referred by someone else, probably in a Facebook group. And she was like surprised when I answered the phone. She's like, oh, I was surprised that you answered your own phone. It was like the day I become too important to answer my own phone, I need to find a new career. I try really hard to be accessible. I came from a job where I was accessible 24/7. And so I've
Yeah.
definitely been able in the last couple of years to kind of set some boundaries up. But it's like I'll answer emails on the weekends occasionally. I'll read Facebook messages in the evenings if I need to, if something really comes up that people need me. I think inaccessibility is one of the biggest issues with the legal profession, because if you're a 30-year-old female, you don't want to go meet with a guy who looks like your dad and dresses in suits every day and talks down to you. And I think that's why a lot of people don't engage a lawyer, because they think that's what that's going to look like. Um, I posted something a couple of weeks ago about seeing the face. Like I saw the face again today. And I always ask people if they have an existing business and they've been around for a couple of years. I always ask, like, do you have a relationship with an attorney, or kind of what's going on there? And the face is when they start thinking about, like, oh yeah, I've been working with my dad's attorney and he talks to me like I'm some kid with this little side thing, and oh, isn't it cute? And like you can tell they make this face when it's like, yeah, they haven't had a great experience. And it makes me sad to see that, because I know what that's like. I mean, I finished law school at like 23. So I know what it's like to have somebody talk to you like you're a child who's playing at a career. And I think that's really frustrating. So that's really been probably my biggest area of the last few years, has been younger people, 20s and 30s, that have worked with somebody maybe who's older, who's been around for a while, who's maybe a little bit more stuffy, or who's talked down to them because they're young, they're a young business owner, and doesn't take them seriously.
Yeah. You mentioned just a couple of minutes ago about accessibility, and I just started thinking, I every other attorney I know, probably other than you and Eric, and I shouldn't make a blanket statement, but people I've worked with in the past, I've never had a direct access to them. The phone number that's available is always the office number.
Yeah.
It tends to, and I don't know, maybe being from Illinois or Chicago, maybe that was more of a Chicago thing, but you talking about the accessibility and knowing that you're there, and like I drove Eric crazy when we bought our last house. He's probably sorry that I've got access to him, but it really, really makes a huge difference.
I think that's really important. Like I have a direct extension here, and that's what everybody gets. I generally don't give my cell phone number out to clients. I do on occasion, but I usually don't. But I get my voicemails via email. So if I'm home and they call the office, even if it's 8:30 at night, I'm still getting the message right away. And I check my email probably more than anybody should ever check their email. So I generally tell people, if you email me, I'm getting it quickly
Yeah.
and getting back to people. If it's something that can wait until Monday, it's probably going to wait until Monday. But if it's something that people really need, they either just need talked off the ledge, or they really genuinely need something. I try to be accessible to people, because I want them to call if they have a question. And it's like, a lot of times I think people don't call their lawyer until it's just this huge disaster. And, I would rather you call me now with kind of an embarrassing, maybe it's dumb question, than 6 months from now and me to go, geez, I wish you had called me 6 months ago, because I could have told you in a 30-second phone call not to do this, and
Yeah.
we would have avoided the whole situation. So I think that, like, literally being accessible where people can find you and people can talk to you is important. And I think having an accessible personality is important. And that's where, the jeans and the sneakers come in. Like, I've made house calls, go to people's houses sometimes. If they're over on the other side of town and they have documents they need to sign, it's like, hey, I'm going to be out your way. If you don't mind that I'm like wearing Crocs and towing a kid behind me, I'll just come to your house and have you sign stuff. So like my kids have gone to clients' houses with me. I have shown up to clients' houses in Crocs before. And my boss, I think initially was kind of like, he's not a big fan of the tattoos or the colored hair or the Crocs. But I think it makes people more comfortable. They feel like they can call you and they can have a conversation, and they're not embarrassed about an issue that they have or a question that they have. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I just, as people are watching this and listening, really take all of this in, because this is something we all can do and should be doing in our business, right? We all should be being ourselves. We should be excessive to the point that makes sense.
Mhm.
We should be relationship building. You said that early on in the conversation. You know, you're not just the person that you call one time and then not think about again. You really develop those relationships over time. So those are all things that we as small business owners or business professionals should be doing and can always improve upon, I'm sure.
I think a lot of people have that scarcity mindset still, which is sad, but my whole thing is like, if you don't want to work with me because I don't dress up for work, like honestly, I'm probably not the best fit for you
Yep.
anyway.
Yep.
Or if you don't want to work with me because you don't like my hourly rate, I'm really sorry to hear that, but like you're probably not the best fit for me anyway. And I wish people would just own that more. Like, oh, I have to be something that I don't really want to be, or I have to discount my prices, which that drives me crazy. Like, decide how much you're worth and then own it, and don't
Absolutely.
apologize for it. You don't want to work with somebody who's gonna try and, nickel and dime you and complain every time they get a bill, or every time they have to, like you sign up for a course, like, oh, I'm gonna email you every time, be like, hey, do you have a discount code? Can I like maybe trade legal services and you'll give me 50% off? Like, you don't want to work with that. I don't want to work with that either. So not everybody's the best fit for me. And I'm really okay with that, because there's more than enough business out there for everybody.
Ah, absolutely. I love that abundance mentality. It's so true. And I think there are so many people too that are underpricing themselves because they're trying to cater to so many of these requests. But it's so true. Know your value and charge what you're worth. And
Mhm.
as you gain experience and as time goes by, your fees should probably go up
Mhm.
because you're definitely worth that. It's so important to keep in mind. So many great comments here too. I'm sure I'm missing something here, but NJ, being who you are helps you get business because they can see you're real. Yep, Linda, work-life balance needed. Karina, we had that experience with an accountant when we took over the family business at 20. Oh, I imagine that was the talking down to
Yeah.
them. Yeah, absolutely. How cool, a black belt. It's been so fun watching your journey through these different belts. Have
I
you got
always
some
invite
kind of like
people,
a
I always
or
invite people to go with me. I'm trying to get like friends to join me. And I tell people all the time, like, they're like, oh, I'm not really in shape. And it's like, have you seen me recently? Like, I run on Dr. Pepper and Girl Scout cookies most days. But it's so much fun, and it's such a great sport, because it's great if you're in fantastic shape because it's an incredible workout. And it's great if you're in really crappy shape because it's an incredible workout. But the place where I train, they really work hard at building a sense of community, and like you really become friends with all the people that you train with. And it's interesting to see people from like all different walks of life and all different professional backgrounds just kind of hanging out and training together. My partner, who I usually train with, is a sophomore in college. And so when we started training together, I was literally twice his age. And one day he's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was like, dude, I could almost be your mom. Like, you just need to dial it down a lot because I'm dying. But like
did you
we
say
text
anything about
every
the
week.
ma'am remark?
Like the ma'am is a taekwondo thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so everybody's
Gotcha.
ma'am and sir at taekwondo. But I love it there. They did like a challenge when COVID first started. My son's been training there for about 6 months longer than I have, and they started this challenge for family members. It was free when COVID started, just to keep people engaged, and I was hooked. So I love it. I passed my son, so I'm 2 belts ahead of my son, and he'll probably get his black belt maybe next year, because he
Okay.
started in their littler kids program. But they have 5 locations in Western New York. So if anybody wants to come and do Taekwondo with me, let me know, because it is so much fun.
That's awesome. A great endorsement there for them too. Some laughs about the Dr. Pepper and Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
Uh,
Karina knows it's true.
that's terrific. Well, and I had told you about 30 minutes. We're coming up on that. Do you have a few extra minutes? I'm
Yeah.
loving
No,
this
I'm good.
conversation, but I want to be respectful of your time. You're okay to
Nope,
stay
I'm
on
good.
for a little bit? Okay. All right. Well, another thing that I wanted to ask you about, it was nice to get to know you better and learn more about your business because you had taken my full day planning program at the end of the year. So I just wanted to ask you what prompted you to decide to do that as really you are a business owner yourself.
Yeah, and that's like I'm an associate here, but my understanding from day one was like this is my practice, this is my
Yep.
book of business.
Yep.
And my expectation was never like someone's gonna just hand me work to do. I need to go out and find it. So I've treated it like my business. So I really wanted to be more focused in 22. So 2020 very quickly became like literally just survive. Like
Yep.
the kids were in school. I worked from home for 6 months of the year, which I hated. Like my mental health was in the toilet because I was working from home and it was miserable. And it was like, just do whatever you can to get through the year. And then last year, I really started thinking more about like strategically how I spend my time because I've gotten a lot busier in the last couple of years, which is great. And I've actually gotten to the point where I'm saying no. And so I read a couple of weeks ago that you actually define your business, or in my case, define your practice more by what you say no to than by what you say yes to. And
Oh,
so
I
I've
love
been
that.
trying to focus on like, how do I get to a place where 80% of my work is stuff I really want to be doing?
Yep.
Like, that client emails me and I'm really excited to hear from them.
Yeah.
Excuse me, or I come in the morning and 80% of my to-do list is stuff I'm pumped about getting to do. 20% is maybe like, ancillary work for those 80% of the clients, but it's just little stuff I'm not super pumped about. Or it's helping other people in the office with something. 80-20 is fine with me. And so in 21, I started doing all of my peopling in one day. So I mentioned I'm an introvert, which means people interaction is very tiring for me. And what I
Mhm.
was doing was spreading out all of my peopling through the week. So I'd have like 1 or 2 meetings a day, 5 days a week. And then I was exhausted every day. And if you've ever seen there's like a meme that went around on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, and it was like how an introvert has a meeting. It's like 2 hours of mental preparation for meeting, 1 hour of meeting, and then like 2 hours of recovery. That's what I was doing. And so I'd get to the end of the day and be like, okay, I had 2 1-hour meetings and I was here for 8 hours and I billed an hour. Like, what was I doing those other 5 hours? It's like, that's what I was doing, was mental preparation and recovery. And so last year I started, I block all my time now. So if somebody wants to meet, it's like I'm scheduling right now for this Thursday and I have this block, or this block open. I'll push into a second day if I have to. But I've generally started doing that. So I started focusing last year on just restructuring my time. But I wanted to do the planning intensive because I felt like I had kind of topped out as far as, how far I was going to get in terms of productivity and planning and scheduling on my own. So it was like I kind of made it to this point on my own. I do a lot of like personal development reading and stuff like that. And it's like, I got to this point, but if I want to get here, I can't do that by myself. I'm definitely going to need some assistance to do that. And so that's what I was trying to do, was close that gap. And I appreciated the planning intensive because we broke down our business into separate segments and then thought about, okay, give yourself a score or a letter grade just on this one segment. How are you really doing? And then where would you like to be? What's the gap and how are we going to get there? And then you have actual specific tasks, and we broke them down. So one of mine was talking again about time management. Like if I get a new LLC client, there comes a point where I send them an email with all of their documents in it. And this is like a 10-paragraph email. And I was going back into my old emails, finding an old one, copying it, pasting it, and then going through and editing it to match what it needed to say for that client. And one of my things was like, okay, I need to automate this because that's ridiculous that I'm
Mhm.
doing that. And so one of my tasks was like, okay, figure out what you're going to use to automate. Like, that's your whole job. You get to that day, you get to that task. Okay, what do I need to do today? My whole job for this particular objective is find a piece of software that'll do that. And so I did that and I checked my little box off and I was very proud of myself. And then the next one was identify 10 places where I'm retyping the same thing over and over again. And I shouldn't be, because it's a waste of my time. And so one day, like I got a Post-it on my big Post-it fan. I got a Post-it on my desk. And as I was doing these like repetitive typing, I would just scribble down, attached is an engagement letter. Please sign and return via email is fine. Also attached is a client intake form. And I was sending that out like a couple times a day sometimes and retyping the whole thing. So I wrote like engagement letter. So then I got those 10 out of the way. Yay, another task. I checked it off. Then the next thing was, okay, now you need to input those things into whatever system you find. So that was a third task. And I really liked that because I've been thinking for a year that I really needed to automate some of that typing that I'm doing over and over again. But that was as far as I ever got, was like, geez, it's a real waste of time that I do this. And then I'd keep typing because in the moment I'm busy. I'm not going to go, on a 20-minute hunt on Google for, text expander, which is what I ended up using. But if I
Yes.
had it on my to-do list and I had my spreadsheet of all of my tasks, in order of date, it wasn't that overwhelming. Because one day when I was sitting at home, like watching a movie with my kid, I'm scrolling on my phone real quick to find text expander and to take a look at how it works. So I really liked the idea of just breaking it down into very specific tasks, because independently, none of those tasks were a huge amount of work. But at the end, I accomplished, a tremendous time savings. And I like text expander because it actually tells me, at the end of the month, it'll send me a report and it says, you used snippets 248 times this month. So I can actually see that it's saving me a ton of time. So that's just one of the examples, but like we went through every area of the business and did those things. And so it was like, if there was one particular area of business where, I feel like, this area is pretty good. It's an 8 out of 10 and I'm okay with an 8,
Yeah.
Fine. I'm just going to focus on, the area where I'm at a 4 and I'd really like to be at, say, a 7 by the end of the year. So I liked the idea of thinking about your business as different aspects instead of, overall, how do you feel about how your business is going right now? I think that's overwhelming to think about, but it was comforting too to realize I do feel like I'm at a 7 or 8 in some areas, and I did feel like I was at a 4 or 5 in others. So it really helped me to focus on what I need to be doing and then coming up right there during the event with the tasks to do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to give that time during those sessions, because so often you can take a training program or something and then you have to make the time to take it and apply it. And a lot of times people don't. So I'm glad to hear that that was helpful. What would you say the main result has been from doing that and implementing those systems? Are you finding yourself saving a lot of time? Or
Definitely time savings, definitely better focus. So one of my goals was to increase my billable hours. I don't really have like a goal here that anyone has set. I have one that I set for myself, and it's not an insurmountable goal by any means, but it is if you're spending a lot of time transitioning from task to task or things like that. So I've gotten a lot better about blocking my time, because I started thinking about, I kept, again, my Post-its, I kept another Post-it one day of, if I take a quick phone call, am I making sure that gets logged in as billable time, or am I just pausing my timer on whatever I was working on, doing the phone call, and then just resuming my timer? And now I've thrown that, 1/10 of an hour or 2/10 of an hour out the window. So I've gotten a lot better about tracking that. I got my little timers here.
we love our timers. Yes.
So you talked about that. I have a tendency, if I sit too long, so like I start looking around and I wonder if anyone maybe wants to chat for a few minutes. So this is a 30-minute. And so I'll just tip it over and I'll say, okay, I'm going to work on this for 30 minutes and then I can get up and go talk to somebody if I want to. But usually, because it doesn't like make a noise or something when my 30 minutes is up, usually by then I'm focused and I can keep working.
Yep.
But I found that to be very helpful. So I love my little Amazon timers.
That's awesome. I love that. Oh, go ahead.
I got an ALEXA for my office as well. Yeah, no, you can't say her name.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Everyone's will blow up. But she reminds me of things like a lot of times, like this would have drove me crazy today, knowing that I had an 11 o'clock with you and trying to think about like, okay, but how am I going to make sure that at like 10:45, I stop what I'm doing and I'm prepared to transition, I get on Zoom. I would have worried probably the whole morning about, well, how am I going to remember at 11 o'clock that if I'm in the zone in the middle of doing something, how am I going to remember that I have at 11 o'clock? So she reminded me. So she plays music for me in the morning and she reminds me of my appointments. It's dumb, but I found it very helpful. And then this morning I came in and I was able to just work because I knew when it got to be the time I had told her that she was going to remind me that I had a meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. And on my group, I've been talking so much about systems and processes lately,
Mhm.
and technology is part of that. And you're doing such a great job using these different tools. And I really appreciate you sharing them too, because I think a lot of people don't think about using ALEXA for
Yeah.
that particular
We
purpose and
we
things
have
like
one at
that.
home and she basically runs our household. So one day I was like, why don't
Wow.
I have one at my office?
Yeah.
She's like $30. So
Yeah.
I got one and got her all set up a couple weeks ago. And I actually Friday afternoons, I usually spend the last hour of my day like just clearing my desk off and organizing tasks for the next week. Because let's face it, I'm not working on Friday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like I'm over it by then. So
Yep.
that's when I do all my cleaning. So she plays music for me,
I love it.
but the reminders have been very helpful.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I appreciate hearing about those. So thank you for sharing about the program. Just before we wrap up, I also want to mention for anyone watching, I do have another quarterly planning event coming up at the end of March. These are the quarterly ones are half days where we really focus on the upcoming quarter. So on March 26th, it's a Saturday, and March 29th, it's a Tuesday. For half days, we're going to be doing a similar process. So if anybody who's watching here is interested in joining us, the early bird price is good until the 12th. So the early bird investment is $249 for the program. So if anybody would like to join us for that, please do. It's great, not just getting well, I shouldn't say just, but getting that plan together, knowing exactly on what you need to focus for the upcoming quarter. But I love how the people in the group share with each other and help each other, and from all different industries. It's really cool to get a totally objective viewpoint on things. So welcome people to enjoy us or to join us there. All right. So just wrapping up, I wanted to ask you, what are you excited about in 2022? What are you most excited about in your work?
Most excited about in my work. I have gotten a whole string of new clients lately that are like mental health counselors with colored hair. And they're all just adorable. They have like purple hair or pink hair. They're just super cute. And like, they're just my people. I usually do my
Awesome.
initial consults on Zoom. And so it's always interesting to like see somebody's face pop up. And I actually did one with a new client last week. And literally the very first thing I ever said to her was, "Oh my gosh, you are so cute." And she was like, "Thanks."
I
I
love it.
probably made it awkward, but I don't know. She ended up deciding she wanted to work with me. So I guess it was okay. Um, so I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about just continuing to implement my plan from the workshop. I think that was huge for me to sort of get direction on what I really wanted to accomplish this year and how I was going to get there. I've always believed that if I'm the same wife and mom and sister and daughter and lawyer at the end of the year as I was at the beginning of the year, like what was I doing?
Mm,
My goal is always to be better than I was at the beginning of the year. And I feel like business wise, I have a very clear plan on how I'm going to do that. So I
uh,
think that's what I'm the most excited about. Have a lot of great results in the first couple of months already by implementing the things that we talked about and the goals that I set up and the tasks that I set up in December. So I'm just excited to see what the end of the year looks like if I keep
uh,
doing that.
that's exciting. And you said like people who are like you, and you said sometimes your color your hair, and you just like to have the people that you really enjoy. Linda said those mental health counselors are all young and trendy now. Good for you, Alyssa.
I have a
Um,
ton of them.
that isn't that
I have a
funny how
ton.
that happens? But they
Yeah.
probably spread the word too about how
I
helpful
have
you.
I have a lot of mental health counselors. I also have a lot of dog people. I have a dog rescue. I have a dog groomer. I have several like dog related businesses. So it's interesting. I really like learning about what other people do.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I think I missed out the most when I was in-house. It was like I knew everything there was to know about that one organization,
Yes.
but now I get to learn about all different industries and all different professions, and that's been really cool to get to learn by
We
myself.
share that love. That's what I really love about my work too, just the variety and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a lot of amazing people and fabulous businesses out there. That's for sure. All right. Well, what if somebody does want to reach out to you, hear this, watching this or watching the recording later? What's the best way to reach you?
Always email, and my email is a gross. I'm going to put it in the comments because I'm
Oh,
on.
good, good. I was going, and I'll put it at the top of the post too, once this is finished.
It's just a gross, Gross, my last name at Moran, Moran lawyers, and that's lawyersplural.com.
Perfect.
I am on Facebook. People reach out to me on Facebook all the time. I prefer email just so I can, it stays in my inbox and I don't lose anybody. Especially when people who aren't my friends message me, I have a hard time like finding it again because that's just how Facebook works. So email is always best.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on
Thank
and
you.
sharing your experience. And thanks everybody who popped on the call with us live. If you're watching the recording or the replay, please let us know that you came in. Great having you all here. And so we're going to get on with our day. Alyssa, can you stay on for just a second
Yeah.
after I stop the live? All right, everybody, have a great day. Have a great rest of your week. Good to have you here.